So I told Harry I didn't want to go more than an hour. We will go as long as we need to go because we need to have a discussion. And that discussion is Clusterfuck Forever. Now, I know we talked about this last year. The Clusterfuck was Joey Janela's Spring Break Part 2. And this year, they gave it its own freaking event. It was in the middle of the night, just like the last one was. And having had this conversation with the Harry Broadhurst of the Streaming Boy podcast, I understood what it was I was watching when I got engaged with the Clusterfuck Forever earlier today. I understand what this is now. I was ready. I was buckled in. And the first thing I will tell you, Harry, answer this question for the court. Did the people in high school who were both theater people and athletes go into indie pro wrestling, specifically GCW? Because the Clusterfuck Forever was not a match. If you call it a wrestling match, you don't know what wrestling is. And I mean that in the professional and the amateur sense. This was
theater.
Performance art. This was like someone took a Broadway musical and an Andy Kaufman happening and made it have violent drug-fueled love, and this was its crack-addled offspring.
The Clusterfuck is best described as wrestling on an acid trip.
The fact that you use the word wrestling is insulting to generations.
There were moments of wrestling throughout the Clusterfuck.
If that's what you want to call it. Harry Broadhurst, I saw no wrestling. I saw people doing wrestling moves, perhaps, but I saw no wrestling at this Clusterfuck, sir. Nothing of what I saw could be described as wrestling. There were wrestlers. I saw Megan Bain, and I was convinced I was watching wrestlers at some point or other, but there was no wrestling.
I mean, I thought the finish was well done.
The finish involved the child.
That child is over, goddammit.
I don't care how over the child is. Do I have to have Jim Cornette come on here and explain to you why no-legged men and children and dolls? Hang on, timeout. Objection from the prosecution. I am the prosecution. I'm objecting to myself because I'm tired and I've lost my mind.
I'm like Joey Janela booking the Clusterfuck.
How many fucking times did the doll wrestle this weekend? How many, Harry? Answer the permission to treat the witnesses hostile. Your Honor, how many times did the fucking doll wrestle this? That doll got more airtime than Shinya Aoki. Explain it to me, Harry. Explain it to me.
I don't get Yoshihiko. You're asking the wrong person. I think it's fucking stupid.
When Jim Cornette complained endlessly about Kenny Omega wrestling the doll, the sex doll, I think he called it, I thought, well, this has to be a one-time thing. This fucking character gets more airtime than other GCW wrestlers. I'll never forget, during the lockdowns, when GCW started their outdoor series of shows to gently bring us back into wrestling as the lockdowns were happening, and Joey Janela, what's the stupid doll's name?
Yoshihiko.
Yoshijama, Hiroshima, what's it called?
Yoshihiko,
yeah. Kicked Yoshihiko into the ocean somewhere on the boardwalk in New Jersey. And this doll showed up in multiple events over the weekend. And was in
the doll wrestled Minoru Suzuki.
I used to have respect for Minoru Suzuki. I don't anymore.
I was waiting for that.
First, he loses an encounter to Pat Mullen, God rest his soul, and then he puts over the fucking doll. Anyway, you want to have a serious discussion about the use of the fucking kid? And I don't care that it's Brody Lee Jr., and I don't care that AEW bent over backwards after his father died. It's a nice gesture. Certainly, in all seriousness, I'll stop doing my character now. He had lost his father. It was a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing to lose a parent when you're that young. And AEW crowded around him and cuddled him and gave him love. And I don't have a problem with any of that. little bit of what they did with it, where he's kicking wrestlers and stuff. But it was like, okay, kid lost his father. I'm going to let this go. How many years ago was that? He's 14 years old now. He's not old enough to be a pro wrestler. Didn't we almost kill a kid in ECW with this sort of thing? Why are we doing this, Harry? Why? Why, I ask you?
Well, the kid in ECW was a 17-year-old who got gigged by New Jack, and anyone trusting New Jack to gig them is a fucking idiot to begin with.
Well, so I think there was some miscommunication there, but let's not litigate the fucking New Jack stabbing.
Yeah, we'll move on from the mass transit incident.
My point is, children don't belong in the ring having an active wrestling match. I don't care what performance art you think this is.
I don't fully disagree, but I think the clusterfuck is, as you said, not wrestling. I think that the clusterfuck isn't about the match.
Ouch, Harry. How dare you counter my argument with logic?
I think the clusterfuck isn't about match. It's about moments. And Brody Lee Jr. winning the clusterfuck was a moment.
Here's the only
that crowd went. That crowd went fucking crazy when he eliminated Joey to win the clusterfuck.
They would have went crazy if they allowed a live bear to win too, Harry. That doesn't mean a bunch of drunken idiots in the middle of the night at a wrestling show doesn't mean anything to me.
I would like to see the bear come back. I miss wrestling bears. Rest in peace, Tracy Smothers.
Then them shoot bears, and then there's working bears. You know what I mean?
Rest in peace, Tracy.
I will say this, and then I'm going to drop the thing with the kid because we'll be here forever if I don't. But it's not that I disagree with the idea of you have to create moments. And if you decide the clusterfuck lives outside of traditional wrestling continuity in a side pocket universe where nonsense exists, I kind of buy that argument. My real issue, when 80-year-old men are doing fucking Canadian destroyers, I go, well, you're an adult and you made that decision, it's dumb as it is. And the promoters are all adults, and if you made that decision, dumb as it is, I support you. I support stupidity. I'm all for it. This is a kid, and you're dealing in dicey territory. Because if you hurt an old man, well, the old man was, asked to be there and was asking for it. You hurt a kid, it's child abuse. Period.
All right, well, let me ask you this question. Would it make you feel any better to know that the kid trains with Natalya and Tyson Kidd?
No. I didn't think he went in there utterly unprepared. Like, they got him out of fucking math. Like, come here. Where are you taking me?
They pulled him.
You're about to get clusterfucked. The hell I am. Ma! That's not what I understand. He's training as a wrestler, which I would have some issues with as a parent, but let us assume we're taking appropriate safety measures and they're not throwing the kid off a fucking roof. Fine, whatever. He's still too young to be wrestling that way.
I don't think he did anything that was above and beyond what you would expect a young trainee to do, though.
Because, okay, in defense of that position, yeah, they carefully. I mean, the poor kid fucking tripped climbing on a rope, but never mind.
Granted.
You're 14, you're still a little awkward. I get it. My point is they took great care to make sure the kid wasn't going to get hurt. But what if there's an accident? What if there's, what if something goes drastically wrong in a way that nobody saw coming? Even with all the precautions they took, that's a kid in there. You put that kid in danger. And I'm sorry.
Let me ask you this. Then let me ask you this question. Do you feel that the same way about Izzy Moreno?
No, because at least she's almost 18. He's 14. And if you don't think there's a difference between 17 and 14, you and I have to have a different discussion.
That's going to end up one To Catch a Predator.
I mean, I'm the one saying the 14-year-old shouldn't have been in the match, so I don't know what you're thinking. But let's not talk about it.
There's a Rob Feinstein joke there somewhere that I'm going to avoid. Anyways.
I'm going to give you the last word on this because I've made you're not going to convince me otherwise
and that's fair.
As a parent and a social worker, a 14-year-old does not belong in that kind of theatrical performance. Period. That is my belief. If you disagree with me, you're entitled to that. Give your final statement, and we're moving on from this.
Okay, so to your point, I don't disagree with you. I think Brody Jr. was too young to have been involved. I get the why. I don't agree with the how. Now, if you wanted to do something like that, have Megan and Joey eliminate each other, and then Brody's the surprise last entrant after everybody's out of the ring. He wins the match. Nobody's any the wiser. The kid still gets a pop.
If you want to do it where it's kind of... So there's a segment of the Clusterfuck, and this is hilarious to me. Because all I could... You ever hear somebody scream from miles away? I'm watching The Invisible Man. There are people watching this that
have no idea what we're talking about.
There are people who watch this because I have friends, and friends watch me do my thing, and they're interested in how I'm doing this, but they don't necessarily watch wrestling. So I have to say this for their benefit. There's an Invisible Man character in professional wrestling. And you're like, oh, how does the guy pull that off? It's not a guy. It's wrestlers imagining there's a real person there and throwing themselves hither and yon.
They're working themselves, yes.
The Invisible Man got more eliminations than Kane in the Royal Rumble.
I especially liked the elimination of Dan Barry. He even hooked the leg, brother. That was respectful.
Was that Dan the Dad?
No, that was he knocked the coffee cup out of Dan the Dad's hand. Dan Barry's the one.
Hang on, Dan the Dad chasing the Invisible Man with the belt was cracking me up.
Dan Barry was the one who got superplexed by the Invisible Man.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was fun. Yeah, so in the world of in the pocket universe of GCW, where there's no such things as physics or logic,
that checks out.
I know you struggle with culture, but there was an animator years ago named Tex Avery. Tex Avery did a cartoon where a dog
wasn't he the original voice of Bugs Bunny?
I don't know if he was the original voice, but he definitely worked.
He was a voice of Bugs Bunny.
He may have been.
Continue.
But he was anyway. So Tex Avery did a cartoon, very famous cartoon, where a dog gets kind of sick of humanity, as we all come to do at some point, and decides he's going to go to the moon. And on the moon, erasers are chasing pencils, and hydrants are chasing dogs. It is that universe in which the clusterfuck takes place.
That seems fair.
Okay. So in that universe where erasers chase dogs and erasers chase pencils and hydrants chase dogs, the Invisible Man eliminated a lot of people in this fucking clusterfuck. It was goddamn hilarious. And I have to say, the guys are all good sports about bumping themselves and throwing themselves hither and yon. It's funny to watch.
No,
you take it, but the point that I was getting to, and I said, have you ever heard a guy scream from afar? I'm watching the Invisible Man eliminate one guy after another and have better matches than some of these guys had the entire weekend of the collective. And I'm hearing Jim Cornette scream from Kentucky. Just absolutely lose his fucking minds. Because between the Invisible Man, the kid, and the dog, you three-peated. You did all three things that drive Jim Cornette to the point of apoplexy. Jim Cornette's going to join the Houthis or the fucking, or some other Arab terrorist organization at the rate GCW is going.
I'm hoping it gets him to quit professional wrestling once and for all and does the whole world a favor.
Well, that's a bridge too far. I think he joins an Arab terrorist organization before he quits wrestling.
Did you hear? So I don't know if you're familiar with. There's a thing on Reddit Squared Circle called the Wrestling Observer Rewind, where there's a guy. His name is D Price. He goes back and looks at old issues of the Observer and kind of breaks them down as far as what they meant now, what the big happenings and stuff, puts them into his own words while still encouraging people to go check out the Observer. One of the things that he talks about is the fact that Jim Cornette had throat surgery and doctors have recommended that he rest his voice for 2 weeks. He made it 3 days.
That's my boy. So I have talked for 15 minutes straight about the clusterfuck. I'm going to take a breath and think about my life choices. Your thoughts, sir?
Realistically speaking, there are no thoughts when it comes to the clusterfuck, because if you try to put any semblance of logic on any part of this match, you're doing yourself a disservice.
I don't recommend it. It'll cause an embolism.
This is one of those matches. This is one of those shows. I mean, especially with Scramble Cage right before it, which is just fucking stupid in concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is one of those shows where you leave your brain at the door when you started. Because if you don't, you will have a coronary.
I showed my kids a lot of things. I showed my son the Show Me Your Tit scene from The Bad Lieutenant. I won't show them the Clusterfuck. I love them too much. Do you have any commentary or review notes for the Clusterfuck? Any issues? You know, the Up girls had a good run at the beginning. Megan Bain was there and made me fall in love with her all over again. Anything else about the Clusterfuck of memory of any note?
Yes. One thing did stick out to me. Viva Van is hot as fuck.
Which one's Viva Van?
The Asian girl.
Oh, because I was thinking about I love this. I know a lot of stuff doesn't survive the indies. Once you get to the WWE, they remake you in their own image. But I'm praying to God Swipe Right lasts all the way to the main roster.
They've kept their gimmick in Evolve when they've been on the Evolve shows.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping.
And then
I'm hoping someday they make it to the main roster and they're still called Swipe Right.
They just did a NXT taping against Fraxium as well too, and apparently had a hell of a match in the process.
Well, the chick that's with Swipe Right, whose name escapes me right now,
Zeta Steel.
Yeah, Zeta Steel's hot as fuck too, and she needs a main roster run.
That's the one that I said looks like a young Alexa Bliss.
Oh,
like Mean Girl Alexa.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's hotter than Alexa Bliss.
Let's not talk crazy here.
She has okay. Your spank fantasy is not my issue here. The woman has traditionally better looks than Alexa Bliss. Who am I looking at? Oh, her. Yeah, she looked like a wrestler. Yeah, I remember her. She looked like a wrestler, and that was my thought when she came out. I'm like, oh, good, somebody in the Clusterfuck that actually looks like a wrestler.
That's Viva Van.
Okay, my other since you're not answering my question, you're being difficult.
Which particular question are you asking?
No, you missed your opportunity. Now I want to talk about Sleepy Joe. So Sleepy Ed, yeah. So Sleepy Ed comes out, and I don't know what else Sleepy Ed does besides sleep, but they got him a nice bed.
Well,
he was molested in his sleep by that Gorgon from Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
Her name is Mickey Knuckles, and yeah,
I don't give a fuck what her name is. Her name is Lose Some Fucking Weight is what her name is.
Technically her name was Sexual Assaulter number 6.
I'm sorry, what now?
I mean, did it not look like she was trying to fornicate on the stage?
That's what I said. I thought that was like a real gimmick name. I'm like, you're gonna have to explain now. Yeah, no, So this fat sloppy fuck who comes out with the Juggalo Championship Wrestling people. I don't give a fuck. Come at me, bro. I live in Tampa. Come find me. I
just want to state for the record that Mickey is actually a sweetheart outside of the ring.
All fat girls are. Listen to me.
Jesus.
So this group of fucking special ed students comes out, and
the views of Mark Radulich
are my own. And for this was Sleepy Ed, right?
Yes, Sleepy Ed.
And he's sleeping comfortably in the bed, the nice bed they made for him on this stupid stage. And
it was quite the bed.
And this fat ass jumps on top of him and starts wiggling her jiggly bits, and then gets off of him again. And it's like at any other time, this would be a felony. My God, man. But not in the Pocket universe, which is run by Tex Avery rules. But the Clusterfuck exists. Any case, I didn't understand the Sleepy Ed thing because like the whole crowd got quiet and like they kind of dimmed the lights. And I'm thinking, and everyone's like,
sleep.
Yeah, they were letting him sleep. And I'm just like, ooh, are we going to get like a Fantasia-esque dream sequence within the Clusterfuck? Because that I was into. It was like, oh, are we going to get like a song and dance number perhaps? Are we going to do something with the lights? No, they just 2 seconds of let him sleep. And then we were back into the regular Clusterfuck again. And I'm like, what is the point of this? So I don't understand this wrestler. Explain this wrestler to me.
I can't. This is my first time seeing him.
You have disappointed me.
I'm sorry. Not really.
Okay.
Although I will say that the idea of a dream sequence fight inside of the ring while Sleepy Ed is on the stage is fucking hilarious and needs to happen.
Well, I'm hoping one of the interns listening to this will pitch that idea to the good people at Game Changer Wrestling. All right, Harry, I'm tired and
I'm sure Joey has.
I'm tired and I have work tomorrow. Is there anything else you would like to discuss regarding the clusterfuck or any other part of the collective?